Om Apiyantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshu Shrotramacha Balamindiyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Mahabrahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakaroda Nirakarana Nirakarana Meastu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmaste Mai Shantute Mai Shantu Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. May our bodies experience perfect health. May our life force flow unimpeded. May our minds expand in their capacity to know Brahman. For the great Upanishads state that all existence is Brahman. Therefore, may we always attempt to realize that Brahman and never neglect that Brahman. May Brahman never neglect us. May there be no rejection of Brahman ever by us. We who are dedicated to the realization of the Atman in all. Also, may all the divine qualities cited in those great Upanishads reside within us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. For there shines Brahman. May that Brahman protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. Free us from faults and impediments, and reveal to us the essence of the teachings in the scriptures. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, and may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat. With those opening chants from the scriptures of India, given to us by the ancient rishis from earliest times, even before the Upanishads were written out, down to the contemporary time when even new Upanishads have been fashioned for us. New means relatively new, because these scriptures are eternal, and sometimes they wait to write them down so that you can get the direct transmission of them from an illumined soul. As Swami Vivekananda says, you can go to the top of the Himalayas, the Caucasus, you can go to the bottom of the ocean, you can go to the Gobi Desert, you can go everywhere, but you'll never find enlightenment until you find a guru. So these teachings that are special and specific to the illumined soul who teaches us, like our teacher here, Swami Asheshanandaji Maharaj, whose picture I'm looking at as I teach, they're given to us as a transmission of wisdom called Atmagyan. And I just chanted about them at the dharmic level, basically. And I also chanted about how our bodies, our energy, and our mind have to be aligned. That's yoga. So we have Vedanta and yoga is a very good fusion, as we know. It's a good hybrid for philosophy and religion because it combines practice of yoga with the realizations of the rishis and the Upanishads. So that's why we would chant such a great Upanishadic peace chant as I just did. Apiyantu Mamangani Vak, speech, Vak, Pranaschakshu, our energy, Shrotramatra, what we hear, Balamindriyani, our senses, Cha Sarvani, and everything. May that all be totaled, may it all be concentrated, and then consummate in the realization of Brahman within us, the Atman, in other words. May that we're dedicated to bringing that Atman out to prove to ourselves and to everyone that Brahman not only exists, it is existence. It's kind of easy to look that over if you're, say, a Western philosopher or maybe an argumentative debater of philosophy or something. It's just the very power that you're using to use words with to debate is given by existence, by the Divine Mother, and Today we're going to supplant conventional Mother's Day with Holy Mother's Day. This is Mother's Day. So in SRV, every day is Mother's Day because Sharada comes first. Sharada Ramakrishna Vivekananda is that SRV. So we always think of her on every day, but especially today on a kind of conventional Mother's Day, which is a good, where you're looking at your mother, which is should be a great hint that existence is because you have a mother. Then we go to that option that we have in spiritual life to pay obeisances to the Divine Mother, the Mother of the universe, the Goddess, um, who is pure conscious awareness, who is Chit Shakti, the mother of our thoughts that rise and fall, who is also the Shakti that presides over our psychic prana, which causes our thoughts to rise and fall. A lot of people don't think about the coming and going of their thoughts. What? When? Until meditation, then all of a sudden you're told, oh, watch those thoughts. So that's the first time anyone gets a kind of inkling in the West or in the intellectual cross-section of people is that our thoughts come from somewhere. There's a prana. It's like we don't question when we do this. It's like offering a flower. Somebody asked me yesterday at satsang, what is deification? There it is. As soon as you think of offering a flower, that's deification. Then the arm follows to do it. That's an act of deification. Then the flower is picked up, blessed with holy water, and put to the forehead, put in a kurma mudra, to sanctify it, and then offered to the image of the Divine Mother on your altar in the shrine room. That's all deification. And it's done with your energy, your prana. But first energy was here, wasn't it? The Shakti was here, then it gave you the thought of psychic prana, then that psychic prana turned into the prana in your arm, and your arm reached out and accomplished the feat that your thought gave you, right? That's the act. So thought, word, and deed, if you want to put it that way, is all got to be deified. That's the tantric way of doing things. So not that I'm going to go off on that for a long time. I'm just saying it's Mother's Day. So we're thinking of the Divine Mother who has gifted us these Upanishads and these yogas. Probably 5 original yogas before the Upanishads were written. Got some down into 4 along the way, 6 or 8 kind of shared with each other through time, through up to the present time when not too far gone. Vedavyas gathered 108 of these Upanishads, and we happen to be studying the Atma Bodha Upanishad right now. We gave the first class last week, and it's hopefully a 3-class series. I don't have any problem fleshing it out to be that long. So today's second class, we're going to look at the lotus stalk. How basically there's this sushumna that goes up the middle of your spine, and it's a sort of metaphor or a symbol for what's in your mind as a subtle body and where all the dharakashas are. Dharakasha means all the kingdoms of heaven within you. So we can make a nice and not too difficult jump from the Upanishads of the ancient Vedas thousands of years before Jesus to Jesus is saying that all the kings of heaven are within you. So heaven became sort of and paradise both became words that we kind of had a sort of a amorphous idea that there was some place we were going, and people tend to look up when they said it. So, as I've often joked about, but he said they were within you. So that's where they are in this lotus stalk. The lotuses are gathered along that stalk like flowers growing on a bush. We picked a bunch this morning to offer to Divine Mother after this class is over for Holy Mother's Day. So just like those flowers on a stem, you're like that. You're like a great flower, or maybe you're the bee that's visiting the flowers and sipping the nectar there, if you're so fortunate to do so. So he talked about that in the first 5 slokas. I mean, we might as well just jump into it with a quick review that I'd like to give you. That is basically, we could just read the 5 slokas that we've already had to remind us. And he starts out, do you remember? Om, right? The innermost the innermost Brahman is Om. So that's how we get to this formlessness that's way beyond, by the word, AUM. AUM has so many designations. I could go around the room and ask you, and you'd each know one. Probably the first thing you'd say was, well, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep is Om, AUM. That's the Advaitic look at things through Vedanta lens. But anyway, that's the very first sentence. Second sloka, we're calling our sentence, a yogi becomes free from the cycle of birth by Om. So we know that rishis have said that. AUM, if you put your waking, dreaming, and deep sleep together, then you'll reach Turiya, because that's the fourth state. Nobody's heard of the fourth state. In fact, most people haven't even heard of AUM. You'd have to go to India to find that. Back to the ancient rishis again, who heard that sound when they meditated. It was like thundering thunderbolts. It was like bees in a log. It was like kettle drums in the distance. It was just a mystic sound we studied a month ago in 2 classes called The Way of the Mystic and The Way of the Visionary. Remember those? So it's that sound side of things, basically. It's that Shabda Brahman, God as sound, Nada Brahman. It's vibration because it passes through wires, like electricity does. So you have a prana electricity that's going through all the wires called your nerves. Those are external nadis, and they're causing you to do that. And the nerves extend into the brain, so they're causing your brain to think, I have to offer a flower to Mother, or this is Holy Mother's Day. All of those things are to be connected and then kept in mind, moment to moment. That's what the yogis do. Keeping this in mind, it's always on their mind. I've tied your name to a tuft of my hair, says Ramprasad, to keep you always on my mind. He jokes. So he wants that sound Brahman, her name in that case, or the name of Brahman or God, or Om, which is Brahman's name, right? It's Brahman's single word. Brahman only has one word. All the other gods have quite a few. But that one word belongs to formless reality. So he wants to keep that close because he says, I can become free by that. So what is freedom? And it's freedom from cycles of birth and death and ignorance, samsara, maya. And that's been real well defined for thousands of years by India. The rest of the world, I don't understand why they haven't caught a clue from that. So we have to catch up with Mother India. She's always the fleetest, the swiftest, the fastest. However, she's also the slowest. If she has to slow down to the level of vibration called matter, she'll do that in order to fish us up and out of matter. I was just writing about that today. Her intention to free us from the idea of being an animal, you see, or being subject to death. Those are all ignoble thoughts. At best, they're apara. Apara means lower ways of thinking. They're theories, but the truth is para, supreme. That you're the Atman. You're not an animal. You're not even a gender. So quit being confused about which one you are. You're neither of them. Go to the transcendent truth that Brahman is beyond all dualities, including male and female. If you want to select the best of male and female, then worship the Divine Mother with a flower today on your altar, because she's connected to Brahman through her Lord, Shiva. Shiva and Shakti are that divine couple. So this is how to make these connections at a level which most people aren't thinking about, because their psychic prana is not known to them, right? A thought comes, they act on it, then it goes good or bad, and they back off and learn a lesson, hopefully, or not, and repeat the action again. The repeated actions that are really good are not pleasure. If you do an act, it brings you pleasure. You do it again, it brings you pleasure. Then you're running a groove into your mind about pleasure, and you'll just be a pleasure lover in your next lifetime. You see them all around, but there's no higher meaning to objects like that than just to bring you pleasure. In fact, you begin to disrespect them then, like the 5 elements here on earth are being disrespected, and the deities that are hidden in them also, earth, air, fire, water, ether. Those gods and goddesses are drawing back and saying, they don't respect me anymore. Why should I remain in balance? Why should I give them all good things if they're not aware of me and my role in life? So even basic life has to be deified like that. I didn't get one sentence out, did I? I got two. So saying this word, Om, Brahman, a yogi, that's a yogini too, because those are the Brahman Shiva Shakti of a thing, becomes free from the cycles of birth and death. How would you like to become free of that? Because it actually means you could take it again if you wanted to, like an enlightened soul. That's called a Jivan Mukta. He goes on to say, Om. So he says it's Om is the word, then he concludes his sentence of getting free from birth and death by saying Om again. Then he says, now what do I do? Now that I've seen Brahman as the ultimate reality and I've said his name, Om, what's the next thought? Ishvara, right? So he goes, I bow to Narayan. So he looks around from that Om and he's still in the body and he's still got the five elements and he's still got energy, prana. He's got all of this at his beck and call. He's free. But what is he going to do with his freedom? He's going to salute the Lord in form. So in India, God with form and God beyond form have always had this divine relationship. One leads to the other, like you get to the Father through the Son kind of thinking in the Western Hemisphere. He goes on. He has Shanka, Chakra, and Gada in his hands. So we looked at that chart last week. He's got the conch shell, which really has so many significances, but you can hear the sound in it if you put a shell up to your ear. That's what most people, they don't put the shell to their ear and say Om, they say, oh, listen, it has a sound inside. But that actually symbolizes sound because you can also blow that. And you'll also do that in your puja for Divine Mother. You'll pick up a shell and blow it. And that will awaken, uh, uh, that power of Vishnu inside of you, which holds the Shanka, that is knowledge of sound. Everyone's attracted to sound. It's the mystical way, as we said. Also got chakra in his hand, that discus that he will hurl, cut off the heads of demons or cut off your ignorance. There's a lot of different meanings and aids coming from that chakra. And a chakra is, of course, also used in another way as those lotuses and the stalk we're going to study in a minute. Then the Gada is there. Be careful. Don't get too close to that, especially if he ever falls asleep and drops it. It's heavy. He brings it down to smash to smithereens the brains and heads of the demons. They don't have a chance against Vishnu. He's going to be all powerful. And of course, if he ever does encounter a demon that he can't quite manage, they fight each other off for thousands of years in the scriptures sometimes, and he'll call Divine Mother into the scene. So, Om I bow to Narayan with Shanka, Chakra, and Gada. And then the Upasaka will go to Vaikuntha. So those who know of Brahman, know of his word, salute Narayan and know what he means with all of the things in his arms, that's an Upasaka. He's practicing Upasana, which means to get near to the Lord. The closest asana you can assume would be to get as close to the Lord as you can possibly see, like Hanuman did to Ram and so forth. So basically, that's the Upasaka. He wants to be as close to the Lord as possible, even when he's in a form, right? Because you can't really get close to Brahman in a sense. You just get sucked into Brahman when you get close to it, like a moth going to a flame. There's just no two-ness anymore. So that's not explicable, and you can't really describe the oneness of samadhi, of that highest samadhi. That's why these lower samadhis are important, because they get us closer and closer to God so that we can become upasakas. So he says that one will go to Vaikuntha. That's Vishnu's primal city of spirit. Then we went on to say Brahmapura is a lotus shining like lightning and lamp. So are all the forms of Vishnu, Madhusudan, Vishnu, Achyuta, whatever you call him, he is one. He exists in all creatures. He's the causal person without a cause. See, subtitle to the chart we looked at. He's a causal person without a cause. So it means that, sort of like Om is the unstruck sound. Imagine a bell. So the bell strikes, and, vibrations go out and dissipate into the air. So that's like objects. But if the one who strikes the bell is more like the subject, right? Because you'll strike the bell, the vibrations will go out. They'll seem to disappear like objects do, but they'll actually be realized to be inherent in the bell. It can strike it again. That's the subject. So the difference between the subject and the object is important. But don't forget the supreme subject. There's no striking in it. It's vibrationless. It's not a Brahman. It doesn't have nadis and doesn't vibrate. Everything that vibrates goes back to it, returns to it, to the source. Involution style, even objects will return back to its unmanifested nature. And Vishnu himself describes this as Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So that's the first four slokas. We took them last week. We also took the fifth. One does not suffer meditating on Vishnu, who is beyond misery and illusion. There is no fear there. One who sees many here goes from death to death. So that's where we want to look here at this transmigration chart really quickly. We'll take a look at the prime chart again, but a quick review is over. Let's launch into the teachings. We'll refer back to this occasionally. But let's look at this transmigration chart called the mind's fascination with samsara, or with coming and going. It wears a groove in its mind that it's actually the mind that's reincarnating. It's not the body. The body is just thrown off and then another one's produced out of nature. But the mind is going from place to place, like this search for life, this thirst for life, forever quench. Why? Because it drags from birth to death and death to birth the soul. Swamiji was so keen on transmitting that bit of wisdom to a world like this that he put it into a poem. This thirst for life forever quench. It drags from birth to death and death to birth the soul. So he wants you to know the soul has a sort of disease in it that it wants to transmigrate again and again and again to try and get something out of emptiness. But there's nothing here in the world that can satisfy you. The world's in you, and that was the satisfaction you should have in it, that it all came out of you. You don't need to go externalize it and then go running through it to look for something that's not already yourself. The self is all in all, and none else exists, and thou art that, is how he concludes that thought. So why go running here to the top of the Himalayas and the Caucasus or to the bottom of the ocean? It's all right within you. Kings of heaven are within you. So in that way, this comes back full circle, not only with the prana and the psychic prana and the chit shakti, the divine mother of our thoughts, also begins to occur here as those who do not awaken to their powers of prana. They do not realize their prana, even by a simple breath. That's how we start people off again. Can you breathe for me? It's almost like saying, what's a breath? They don't really know what a true breath is. And when they finally take a true breath, like in yoga, Rechaka, Kumbhaka, Rechaka, Puraka first, then Kumbhaka, then Rechaka. When they finally take that breath, they start feeling better. And immediately, what do they say? I'm the body. So this is the problem with Hatha Yoga and Pranayama as limbs. You have to have a guide there to say, no, that's not the right conclusion. When you breathe in and hold the breath and breathe out, that's just the beginning. You're balancing the breath. Now you have to take a Vedic breath. We have a whole beautiful chart on that is called prana, the breath of life. So basically, you have to take a Vedic breath, and it's a very powerful thing to be taught, which is in the teaching of higher pranayama in the Upanishads. It's there, and it's in the Vedas. Therefore, he's saying here then to free oneself from this thirst for life and forever quench it, then we're going to have to realize that it all is running by prana, but that higher than prana is your thought prana, that you're directing the show in that case. The ego's got hold of everything. But as soon as you awaken the prana and illumine your mind with the psychic prana, then all of a sudden you see Narayan. And then all of a sudden you see Brahman. Oh, there's something beyond my own ego, right? There's something beyond the individual. It's called the indivisible. And then I put my mind on that and I began to know what a Vedic breath really is. It's no breath. It's called kumbhaka. When you go to deep sleep, you don't breathe for a long time. When you go into deep meditation, you stop breathing. And when you go in death, the lungs stop breathing. When you go into higher samadhi, you stop breathing. So this kumbhaka is the real cosmic breath, or therefore cessation of breath. That man does not live by bread alone, does not live by lungs and air alone, then. It would also live by this Shakti power that's within him or her, and it helps him realize the highest truth. So he's talking about being dragged from birth to death and death to birth. I can just only show you this nice image here at the top, where you can see beings being born as a baby out of the mother's womb. And then how they go forward as become a young boy, and then become a teenager, then become a young man, then become a middle-aged man, then become an older man, and then become a decrepit man, passing into death. So this is a cycle they're showing here, where the mind is in moha, delusion about its true nature. What is its true nature? Non-cyclic, eternal, not subject to birth and death. Those are dreams it's having inside of the mind. Those aren't inside the Atman. It's all happening in nature, as Krishna says in the Gita, not in the Atman. Nothing happens in the Atman and Brahman. Didn't we just call it free of vibration? So you see how this is vibrating, this cycle of birth and death, vibrating in the three worlds constantly. What if you all of a sudden had kumbhaka, the vibration stopped? Would you be there anymore? Are you there in the world when you're in deep sleep tonight? What happened to it? What happened to your relatives? What happened to your loved ones? What happened to your precious pets? They all went away in deep sleep. So what is that happened to me, where I went into a peaceful state beyond reckoning, and I didn't breathe for so long? So that's a hint that Divine Mother has planted in all of us, that we have this state of pragya. That's knowledge, higher knowledge, but it has to be made, you have to be made aware of it before it becomes the fourth state, highest beyond deep sleep. Because in deep sleep, you wake up and forget about what you experienced there. But the yogi who goes into Turiya, or the rishi that has realization, doesn't forget when they touch that. I've touched the feet of Brahman. O ye immortal ones, I proclaim, I've seen Brahman, right, as the Vedas say. So they wanted to come out and proclaim that, so that they got off the cycle of birth and death, and they had this very high state of breathlessness, kumbhaka, with a capital K. And inside of that saw both the Lord with form at the highest level, called Ishvara, or Ishvari, if it's the Divine Mother that they love. And then they were led through that porthole to Turiya, or to Brahman. So notice the animals, plants, insects are all going along the same route, but they're not coming back in human bodies. In fact, they're being guided. They've come out of mankind. and they'll go back into mankind. That is his thought process. So that's how we should take care of Bhuta, the Bhutas, right? It's called Bhuta Yoga. Is that you want to take care of animals, plants, and everything, and try and treat them with sensitivity without violence. Nonviolence is the first precept of yoga. It's called Yama number one, ahimsa. Very important to the path of yoga to have that. There you can see some of the soul's misapprehensions that bring it into this state which he's talking about here. This is basically that one who does not see Om, does not see the Lord, Vishnu, does not see Brahman, sees many instead. Right? So he's not seeing the one, he's seeing the many. That's Dvandva Mohena. That word is there in the chart. Moha. Basically, since they're seeing the one, not seeing the one, he's seeing the many, then he gets dragged through the many, right? From this to that, and back from that to this again. So he's going through these cycles of transmigration in the dream of the mind's projection. And he gets caught with an impression in that in his mind, and he thinks that's life, and he comes again and again into life, so he'll suffer death again and again. He goes from death to death again and again. Doesn't even mention life here, because kind of interesting that he wouldn't even say from life to death. He just says goes from death to death, because he's saying that's not really life he's living when he's reborn, because he doesn't know the essence of life, which is the Lord. Doesn't know the essence of life, which is Brahman, the absolute. He doesn't even know the essence of life, which is his own prana, life force. So interestingly put in the English transition, basically, that one who sees many just goes from death to death, not from life to death. So you can see there, if we mistake nature as a separate entity from us, as I was just talking about, and we desire to possess it and unite with it, then we become it. We don't go from the infinite back to the infinite. We go from the infinite to the finite. And then we believe we're the finite, and we live in the illusion of finitude for many births. The illusion of finitude is a nice way of saying that in English, which our founder Lex Sixon coined. They give themselves to the illusion of finitude. They're not even saying finitude is true. It's not. Saying it's an illusion, but they're still giving themselves to the illusion of finitude. The problem with that really is loses a sense of the higher self. You say, well, don't forget suffering. Well, suffering is not real either, but the self is real. So if we go beyond the usual complaints about suffering, that suffering is, for instance, we've already understood that from the Lord Buddha, First Noble Truth, then the next thing we would probably think of really quickly is, what about losing my true nature? That's a real calamity. Suffering, that can be forborne. In fact, people here come back to this death-to-death existence in order to suffer. They'll put up with the suffer to get these things for themselves that aren't real, that aren't fulfilling, and that don't amount to anything in the end. And just then accumulate and culminate in death again. So that's why he says, to lose a sense of a higher self, that's really what nature takes away from you if you identify with it. You're the gardener, not the garden. And so you would immediately know yourself as the self in all, and know that nature's expression out of the mind. And so don't falsely perceive yourself as a changing entity. Everything in nature changes, except that changeless reality, which is bell, striking, emanation, dissolution, and act of striking, all in one, is the unstruck. That's the ultimate reality. That's what you know yourself as. Everything else then becomes non-risky and non-threatening to you. As she's saying here in the chart, really, well, how did he get to this? I am pure vision. I am inner self. I am expansive bliss. I am the witness. I am the subtlemost. I am beyond the three qualities. I am endless knowledge. I am known by the agamas, the scriptures. How does he get to all those I ams? He's brought them out through the whole Upanishad. I'm giving them to you early because they're going to occur throughout the reading of these mere 30 slokas. So actually breaks down into 10 if you put them together the way this is congealed them. So basically, in this a few short slokas, then you've got this this conclusion put in many different expressions of I am. That's why they call this Upanishad sometimes one of the I am Upanishads that I was explaining last week. People in the West have kind of gotten attracted to that. It kind of cuts away karma and suffering and cuts away having sometimes, unfortunately, if you do practice to get rid of karma and suffering, and just kind of arrives a little bit prematurely to the conclusion, I am that, I am that. They wish and they hope for that. But you have to long for it, not just wish and hope. Just cry one tear of longing for the absolute, Sri Ramakrishna said, and then he or she will come to you. You ever found that out about yourself? If you were ever in a great amount of suffering or depression in your life, crying made you feel better. So even that worldly crying, because of something that's unreal, actually gives you a break from suffering and depression. Oh, things will get better. All of a sudden you have a better outlook. Your perspective changes. That if you could just cry one sincere tear for love of God, that would change the whole picture, not just temporarily, but forever. Then finitude would disappear and your infinite nature would be upon you. That's what I am means. My infinite nature took over and I see it all now. I am all that. All that is in me. I'm not in it. There's another way of saying that. So that's a very important that you have to see yourself as the changeless entity, not a changing entity. The soul accepts birth and death as being real. That's why he's saying here they go from death to death. And it is content with happiness and suffering and imagines its birth and death in nature repeatedly. The key word there is imagines. The Sanskrit word for that is vikalpa. So it has fantasies about life. A dream is a kind of fantasy. Is that you're sleeping, all of a sudden you dream yourself to be something else, someone else, in some other land, having some fun. Heaven is rather like that too, isn't it? So basically, when that from dreams away, from bonds be free happens to you, know the truth, thou art he, thou art she, as Vivekananda used to tell us. When that happens, then you wake up from these fantasies called vikalpas, and you dream no more, because Brahman never dreams. Consciousness doesn't dream. The very thought that it dreams is actually ridiculous. That God dreams is actually a ridiculous concept. It's ever awake. That's called yogic insomnia. It's always awake. So that's what the yogi emulates, and the seer tries to be like that ever awake state, which he finds Narayan and Brahman in. So imagines is the key word. The next level after imagination, if you can destroy the propensity to dream in your mind, you can see how this is all makes more sense when you think of it that way. He's dreaming himself on this wheel of birth and death over and over again. He can, number one, he can wake up from it anytime he pleases. Number two, the dream's not real. So if you put those two thoughts together, I can wake up and it's not real what I'm waking up from. And it's but gives you a lot of impediments, takes away a lot of impediments and gives yourself a lot of impetus towards enlightenment. So what would happen then? Sankalpa. Does it get any better? Not that much. See, basically you go from vikalpa, destroying the fantasies around things that will never become real, Then all of a sudden you're into conception. That's called sankalpa. Now I'm conceiving things, but those conceptions I'm actually attaining. I can get what I want in life, whereas I can't get what I want in a dream. So in life, that's the difference between vikalpa as a kind of dream and sankalpa as a kind of life experience, that I can conceive of things now with my mind and I can bring them into focus and I can attain them and possess them. You see that happening all around the world. That's what people are after. So a lot of people have woken up from the dream of fantasy and they've made it what they call a reality. That fantasy and reality is one of the dualities of Maya. You have to go beyond both. So once you attain things in the world to the conceptual power of your own mind, psychic prana like that, then you have to say, I renounce that too. Because after a while I found out it didn't fulfill me. So that's the last part here. I notice that we haven't gotten around, most of us in this day and age, in the West particularly, to renouncing the world, like say the monastic does, or the sannyasin, or the yogi, or the rishi, or any illumined soul. Their life gets so much better when they renounce the world. The world becomes so much more beautiful when you renounce it. Life becomes stripped of death when you renounce life, right? Because when you renounce life, you renounce birth. So namritur, right? Na shankara, name jati beta, Shankara says. I, I never had a death because I was never born. So he puts death through first, like this Rishi is doing, or Swamiji's doing. It drags from birth to death and death to birth to soul. But what if I take birth away from the quotient completely and I don't imagine it or conceive of it anymore? I have no more vikalpas, I have no more sankalpas, and now I can live in the I am, the land of I am, you see. I am living in the land of I am now. I'm not living in any other loka, world, or heaven, or akasha, um, uh, made up of fantasies and conceptions. Because the truth of the matter here can go really quick. Nature is separate from the soul only in consistency. That is, it's consisting of empty particles. That's why I said the bell, when you strike it, the vibrations go out, disappear. Nobody thinks they're back in the bell, right? The subject, the one who struck the bell, has to say, oh, I hear it going away. You know, it's like an object. I see it going away. I want it. You know, so objects go away and they get depressed, right? They get sad. They'll jump up a bridge. You know, they'll end their life because those things didn't fulfill them. But if the person who struck the bell of concept, and it was a wise concept, struck it and said, it's going away, but I can always strike it again. You know, the vibration, original vibration, or the origins of things are contained within the bell itself. It can vibrate as many times as I want it to, right? That's the difference between the subject and the object in Vedanta. The subject is closely associated with the eternal subject. That's Brahman. And so then the soul's already beginning to align itself with eternity and with infinity and giving up non-eternity and finitude when it realizes that everything is struck in the bell of the mind, and when it goes away, I shouldn't grasp it. That's renunciation. Instead, I should go look into the bell itself and examine it. How does it do that? How does it vibrate all the time? What happens when I strike it? What is that sound? It's a whole inspection of the bell of the mind that's vibrating all the time. What will you find? It's got an original vibration to it. What's that called? The inmost Brahman is Om. That's what it's called. Saying that, a yogi becomes free from the cycle of birth and death. So I'll say it again. Om. First sloka of this Upanishad, right? So we have to kind of impress that on our mind, that there's a word that's the primal vibration of everything, that they're even calling the unstruck sound. It's so infinite, it's got such vast possibilities, such vast propensities, that it can be struck again over and over again for billions and billions of years in cycles of time by that one subject that you are. You are turns into what? I am. I'm the causal person without a cause. I'm one with the Lord. Right? So if I cause everything to happen, but I don't have any cause myself, then I'm not one of those poor souls who thinks cause and effect is the ultimate reality. What's cause and effect? What's another word for that? Karma, right? Yeah, there's results coming back from what I do. But no, I'm not doing anything, so there's no results coming back, right? That's what the I am world is like. That's what the soul who's realized Brahman, Ishvara, and their own role as the Atman in it all does not suffer cause and effect. He doesn't even go there. He might probably thinks it's obvious that that would be the case if you find the primal vibration humming inside of yourself. So what to do with nature when you find it? It's in me. There's two mistakes they make. Again, there's no difference between nature and me is the first mistake. I am matter, right? I am matter. That's the first mistake to make with it. Second mistake is made, I must renounce it because it's not me. It's different from me. But the thing that they don't see about those two, each one being a little bit further step towards Brahman, because it's better to renounce it than to think you are it. But the third thing is superior to it all, so that it's in me. I can strike it anytime I want. What about the bad things in it? Well, there's poison in a snake, but the snake doesn't die from it. I'll get to that when I realize the truth. So that's what's being said here, basically. It's the truth of non-separation. If you think in terms of Advaita, then you will have Advaitic conclusions come out of your mind. It won't take but a few days, a few weeks, or even a few months to put the whole thing back in Prakriti. Make all vibrations go back to nature. And then you'll be like Krishna on the battlefield telling Arjuna, and right there in the midst of battle, at a little break, right there saying, everything happens in nature. Doesn't happen in you, Arjuna. The you is not the ego you. The you is the Atman you. So all of this is happening in nature as cause and effect and karma, but it's not happening in you as Atman because it's not suffering karma, because it's not suffering cause and effect, because it's not suffering vikalpa and sankalpa. It's not lost. It's not being drugged from birth to death and death to birth, because the mind has seen through that. And what's it say when it sees through it? I am. What's it say first? I'm not. Right? I'm not this battle. I'm not all the bodies on the battlefield. I'm not the blood flowing in torrents. I'm not the emotionalism, sensationalism, and terror that's in the battlefield of the world. What to speak of battlefields where actual weaponry is being used against the goddess Ahimsa. But I'm actually in this, it's actually this battlefield in my own mind that I can now say, hush, be calm, be still, be silent, be equanimous. And then when the I am not turns to I am really quickly that way. Second point here, being a projection of the combined thought power of the cosmic mind and the individual mind, that's called Mahat and Antakarna. Nature is an expression of Brahman. So here's a fourth thing, right? I mean, these are like 5 eternal truths that I'm telling you about, basically, in India. First is that, when you say I'm not, it means because the first mistake is I am matter. Second mistake is that I must renounce matter. You know what Lord Kapila says about that, right? Renunciation of matter is like one of those complacencies. So he means go further, go further. So the third thing then is going to be matter is in me. But what's the fourth thing here they're saying? It's very beautiful, right? And it's all an expression of Brahman. So if you want to know how they got from I'm that, I'm that result of my vikalpa to I am the power of my sankalpa to that's within me, it's not outside of me, then that's beautiful and it can't threaten me anymore. And then they say, I am. It's all happening in me. And I can even dream it and it won't hurt me anymore. That's what Swamiji said. It's true that life is just a dream. My ambition here is to become a conscious dreamer. So all of a sudden, you've got the real meaning of lucid dreams, not just going into some state, like dream state, that's not real and hoping you can pull something out of it for yourself. That's selfishness. That's attachment. Nature is in here too, we just said that. So you've got lakes, you've got rivers, you've got mountains, you've got heaven, you've got lands, you've got other beings in your mind. And you still want to grasp onto subtle nature, matras, with your subtle senses. You still got that penchant. You still want to manipulate nature inside of yourself. Give it up outside in the waking state. Then when you go inside, you won't say, well, out there must be like in here. It's like a mirror image of itself, right? If I'm not the dream vision, I'm certainly not the waking state vision, and vice versa. So then you become free of waking and dreaming. And the big kumbhaka, that breath I was telling you about, the Vedic breath happens. Look at deep sleep. It's shining. It's shining with seeds. Isn't that what we just said, the fourth thing? Isn't Brahman's expression beautiful? Because he's seeing it in his deep sleep state. Now he's gotten to sushupti. It's a kind of samadhi that you have every night. There's still turiya to come. So there's always, Vedanta always saves the best to last, but the last isn't the last. It's because it had no beginning. So this is just all Brahman that we're heading for. It's, the bell that doesn't strike. If someone gives you a bell as a gift for Christmas, you should say, that's Brahman, and name it Brahman, and ring it once a day, right? Like ring the lunch bell outside that we do at the ashram. Bong. You get married, you go ring a bell with a big log at a Buddhist temple. And that bell that's hanging there, even right now, even though you got married and it was like 50, 67 years ago, that bell's still hanging there in that same spot, unstruck. And it doesn't matter whether it's struck again or not, it remains unstruck. That's Brahman. So a very beautiful thing there is, fourth thing is that when you go through those steps completely, then all of this becomes Brahman. That's what he's saying here. Nature is an expression of Brahman. They've made the final cohesive connection, haven't they? They couldn't have got to that if they had either thought they were matter or thought matter was alien to them. They've made these next two steps that's called enlightenment of the mind. And finally, I am. So I pulled these out and did this ahead of time so we could go this direction. Finally, and this is a little bit more complex, appearing in some form at all levels of vibration, nature is both the manifester of primal substance and the facilitator of the relationship between matter and consciousness with form. It doesn't say, with formlessness, because there's no relationship in formlessness. So we'll have to say that out front. But the other thing here is, say another point that we could add to these is that don't forget that it's not just you, that everyone's worrying about. It's like even to my mother saying, oh, they're so attached to nature, let them have it, right? If they want money, let them have it. If they want pleasures that are accompanied with pain, let them have it. She stands back, lets everyone have it for thousands and thousands of years in cycles. and only waits for those ones to awaken who don't want it anymore, who have made these kinds of conclusions. They've worked themselves through the world bewitching Maya. I now penetrated it. I see, I am. But what I'm saying is that that doesn't mean that nature won't go on facilitating worlds. There's nothing you can do to stop that. So if you see that, but if you've seen that it's all an expression of Brahman, let it happen, right? In fact, I think I'll develop a new level of participation. It's neither vikalpa, fantasy, nor sankalpa, wise conception. I think I'm going to call it Leela. And I think I'll become very good at it. And then hence you've got the avatars like Vishnu and like Sri Ramakrishna, Krishna, Ram, and Ramakrishna coming forth as masters of Leela. They all had a beautiful Leela. Buddha had a grand Leela. Ram had a grand Leela. Muhammad had a grand Leela in his life. That was just as if standing there telling people that never met them or wouldn't meet them in that lifetime even, this is how I lived in an I am state. It's called Leela. And it swiftly puts to death all those other levels of existence that people are living in cycles in for endless cycles. Why be dragged from life to death? Why end up being dragged from death to death without even real life? So at least you had a real life, then death wouldn't be so bad. There would be something to consummate, something to grab onto, something that accumulated that you can bring into your next life. And that does happen to some people. So don't forget that there's also nature's role as a primal facilitator of all things in form. In form. Number 5. Number 6, then, remember the formless. That's the bell that's never struck. And it's hidden somewhere back in the cave of your heart, they say. That's Om. And you'll go and find that. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the 5 slokas. We finished 4 of them last week. Now let's go on to 6. In the middle of the heart lotus, in the middle of the heart lotus, it exists. What exists? Brahman. That's that Brahmapura. I was looking for the Sanskrit of it here. That's called Brahmapura. So basically, that exists in the middle of the heart lotus with knowledge as its eye. Nice. So this is that Jnana Chakshu. Started to reach with my prana. I started to reach for that third eye chart 2 or 3 times today. They've seen it so much. They've seen it again. We don't want to show it again. I just showed it in the last seminar, so I didn't bring it. But that's that third eye chart. And we had that. It's called the Buddha eye. It's called the Dharma eye. It's called the eye at the center of the forehead. It's called the Jnana Chakshu, the wisdom eye. It's called, if thine eye be single, you shall know the truth eye. It's called the white dove descending eye. And it's called by at least a few other names in 7 different religious traditions of this world. So it's not just something you see on a poster, a Hindu poster, when you were growing up in the 60s. Oh, where's their eyes on that woman or that man's head? That's strange. I thought that was weird at first, right? But it was all sort of sensational. That it's actually based in truth. And it's the 6th chakra, lotus, up the lotus stalk, that's mostly directly associated with higher wisdom. That's that penultimate stage before I am. I am is here. It's called Sahasrara. And Agya, which means, beyond wisdom, really, is that wisdom eye that's there. And so beings with the Kundalini awakened and coursing inwardly through these lotuses called chakras, awakened at different levels of these centers. And they say also, speaking of birth to birth and death to death, that they exit out of these centers. That's not, a lot of information is not given on that specifically. That's why the Kundalini yoga system is very good for us to look into. But basically they say, exit out of these lotuses. So if you're entering in to the Muladhara, to the Swadhisthana, and then Manipura, which you'll see on this chart that we look at soon, the lotus stalk, basically, then you'll probably exit out of those two. So that's called transmigration in the three worlds. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyan, right? So Savitur is like Savitri, the mother. It's just this Gayatri mantra that we look at. So Bhur Bhuva Swaha are these three levels, these three worlds, these three chakras. If you put it in terms of lokas, it's or akasha, space, bhutakasha, pranakasha, and chittakasha, right? So there's just, throughout India, there's been these alignments of beings, what worlds they go to, what are those worlds called, where are they located, because they're definitely not in the bony spine. That's just a way which they're going to share it with us so that we can think in terms of them being in the sukshma sharira. They're not in the stula sharira. That's called the physical body. All of these lotuses are in the sukshma sharira, the subtle body, which is the mind. Again, remember that mind that fantasizes. Remember that mind that conceives for its own selfish good. But remember that mind that said, I see the truth of Brahman. I want to become that. I want to say I am, mean it. So in all those levels, then these chakras are there and beings are coming into them by the hundreds and thousands and leaving them by the hundreds and thousands to the millions in every cycle of time. In fact, since I'm sitting here, it'd be safe to say that hundreds and hundreds of souls have been born since I started talking, and hundreds have died. I think I was writing in a new book I'm creating called the Matri Avatar, Mother Avatar of the Mother, and writing the other day. And as I was writing, my concentration was there for an hour and a half. 3 sirens went by, 3 ambulances. And so every time I hear an ambulance, because there's a hospital here in this town, so basically say, Om, Shanti, 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 I say in my mind. Every time I hear a siren, the dogs all go, boo, and stupid as they are. But, basically the humans should go, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace to that person who's about to pass out of life, possibly. Or peace to that baby who's just being born in an ambulance or on the way to a hospital. Whatever it is, I have to say peace 3 times for Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, for the beings who are transmigrating here, so that they have some being on earth that's thinking of them, because no one else is, not unselfishly. They're all thinking of them selfishly. What can I get out of that person? What can it give me? It's an occult power that's in the minds of all beings. I want to dominate over that soul. Your ancestors are like that. I want to have that soul in my own care so I can bring it up and be proud of it, and it can take care of me later. I'm covering all bases here. But basically, that soul who says Shanti, Shanti, Shanti is realizing that as I sat there for an hour and a half working on this book on non-duality and Ishvara, that hundreds of souls just were born and 100 just passed away in this world as I was doing that. Where are they coming from? Where are they going? So the yogic systems of India are telling you they're coming in and out of these chakras, these lotuses, inside of the mind, where the stalk of the lotus is growing, with its roots in the Muladhara, right? In the mud of the Muladhara. and then with the stalk running up through the Swadhisthana Manipura to the Anahata, the heart chakra. As soon as it reaches the heart chakra, then transmigration in these three worlds is over, at least in ignorance. So then it can go from this higher heaven, because lower heaven's at the third center, and kind of higher heaven is at the heart chakra. It escapes being drugged from birth to death and death to birth, and having to become a body and suffer and all that. It can also then reach inward to higher and deeper climbs at the throat chakra called pure. This is pure. You wouldn't know it by listening to most people talk. But actually, this is very pure, the Vishuddha. Should be. And then it can reach even deeper towards non-duality, which is here, wisdom, and then towards immersion. And, even beyond, you say that's just the six worlds you're talking about. Seven, if you count the Sahasrara as the seventh. But there's life beyond. That's the I am life, even beyond the Sahasrara, 1,000-petaled. No vibrations. Petals are vibrations. They're lila. There's lots of lila going on there in a very beautiful, blissful way. You can tap into it as a soul. So in the middle of the heart lotus, then Brahman exists. That's where it's centered. There's three above and three below. That's how the rishis put that. I thought Brahman should be up here or beyond, because Brahmaloka happens to fall, at these higher chakras. But they insist that since Brahman is everything, and nature is still an expression of Brahman, remember, and we're not forgetting these things as we earn ourselves a consummate view of what true philosophy is at the non-dual level, which includes everything from God with form to God beyond form, and nature with seeds and nature without seeds. All of that begins to play into this grand principle of called enlightenment, wherein they find it right there in the heart. There in the cave of the heart, the size of a thumb, just to the left of the breastbone, is the Atman, they say, in some Upanisads. So that's the Dharakasha. Basically, it's in the cave of the heart. That's another word, meaning for the word Dhara is heart. So basically, that's where Brahman is, he's saying. I'm quoting from the Upanishad here. I'm not just pulling from anywhere else. In the middle of the heart lotus is Brahman. It exists with knowledge as its eye. That's the Jnana Chakra, right? So here in the heart it is. It's got this as the eye. So this is a perfect combination, isn't it, of heart and mind that we talk about here, but very few people realize the implications of how deep that goes. For the yogi or rishi, the yogini, the realized soul, they're saying, I'm going to put these two together, heart and mind. And the world and knowledge are all established in it, he goes on to say in Sloka 7. So this is Slokas 6 and 7. So that's why we want to get some ground going here on the charts by just giving a quick look at this beautiful blue lotus. That's a very rare creature, as I hear, but I did find some pictures of it. If Ramchandra in the Treta Yuga wanted to really worship the mother and wanted to worship both Shiva and Shakti, so he offered blue lotuses at the mother's feet. It's a famous puja he does in the Ramayana. And so he wants to please the mother to get the ability to help people so that he can destroy demons that are in their way in that yuga. So he had to gad about a lot in the forest to find blue lotuses. It took him a long time. Gathered some blue lotuses, brought them back because they're not going to last a long time. We know the flowers we're about to offer are waiting, because they have a shelf life, as they say, just like bodies, any body does. He gathered a bunch of blue lotuses and offered them at the Divine Mother's feet in puja, in worship, in deification, puja. So here's a beautiful image I found of a blue lotus, kind of like violet with some white overtones. But Beck, you can see there from the Amrita Nadu Upanishad, um, it says, the practice of yoga from a purely motionless position, free of all vibration, situates the yogi in what is called the hollow stalk, known as moving inwards. The openings in the navel, heart, head, and the crown are penetrated in order. The yogi who is set on this course will behold the inner deities in 5 months, attain Brahmanishta in 6 months, and reach Kaivalya at will. So this is, setting the foot on the path inward from the heartward up, from the heart loka inward up. Right? And so it's going to have to mean that you don't want to be cycling in these 3 lower chakras anymore. Why is your fascination with rebirth in samsara should be given up and renounced? Because you think the world is real. But if you renounce the world by knowing it to be unreal, by the teachings that these beings are giving us, then it's not hard to say, I will reach enlightenment in this very lifetime or die trying, because death is inevitable for all living beings, all embodied beings. But this death has to be conscious for me, and I have to breathe Vedically for it. And I have to not breathe in my normal way. I'm going to have to not eat in my normal way because my prana has to be kept pure. I'm going to not think in the normal way with the ego and the intellect in charge anymore. That is what? Vikalpa and sankalpa, right? Because Krishna tells him, you can't be a yogi if you don't give up sankalpa. So there are people who are very wise in this world, and they're trying to get things with this intellect, and things that aren't really real in the end and won't satisfy them, but they don't know that yet. So when you know the world is not going to fulfill you, in fact, even the lower heavens are not only going to fulfill you, they're going to call you to return again and again. Then you'll try with all your might and with all your prana and with all your psychic prana and with all the chit shakti that you're able to glean from the Divine Mother's feet to open this chakra called the Anahata, the 4th. So 3 above, 3 below, the Upanishads say. So that's why he's saying here, and I took a little bit of extra time to explain it basically. Um, this Brahman exists in the heart lotus with knowledge as the eye. The world and knowledge are all established in that Brahman. So that's the Harakasha. Everything is there. All the worlds are there. The kingdoms of heaven within you are there. So that's why you meditate there with a capital D when the teacher tells you, no, don't look up here yet. You see, don't look out. Close your eyes. Still your breath. Even your breath out, still it. Focus. Run the eyes down the bridge of the nose. Oh God, don't stop at the tip of the nose, please. You look cross-eyed. Run the gaze, your inner gaze down the tip of the nose to the anatomical heart, and then see that as the heart in your mind, because you've now learned that the Taharakasha is in your subtle body, not in your physical body. And now you concentrate on it, and you have what's called a meditation practice. And it's not going nowhere, like out to the body or out to outer space or down to hell or even up to heaven. It's going inward to the Dharakasha. That's where Brahman is. So with Brahman in mind, with Ishvara as your guide, with the mantra that was given to you as the sound of the bell that's being struck, you go straight to Brahman. And you open up these 3 above. You renounce the 3 below, and you open up the 3 above. Oh, can I come back to 3 below? I certainly hope you do not until you can do so with full consciousness. The avatar doesn't go down there. People think, well, we should bring the Kundalini Yoga consciously down to these three. I don't know if I would agree with that when even the avatar won't go there. He stops at the heart and calls down to the three lower worlds. Come up to me. Right? I'm sorry, I won't venture there. It's too risky, Maya. Embodiment, life and death, birth, gross prana, gross senses, objects that are attracting, nature that wants to be with you. I don't think I want to go be dealt that hand anymore. It took me too long to get my liberation. So come to me. Come unto me. Come inward. Concentrate here. I'm there. You'll see me in the heart. So every authentic guru that teaches any sincere student will say, focus your mind on the heart. And the Upanishads are saying that over and over again. And for as long as it takes for Ishvara to appear there in your inner vision and give you salvation. And at that time, is that it? And Ishvara will say, oh, you mean you want liberation? Well, that's something a little different. You've reached the highest heaven. Very good for you. Yes, do you want to go beyond? You know, are you ready? Are you able? Do you want to know what it's like just to jump in the ocean rather than just to approach it, stick your toe in it, like the heavens? You know, I want to plunge in. You have that kind of intention inside of you, then I'll teach you about moksha, a state of liberation that's always already at hand. So anyway, that's a good preamble to this chart with slokas 6 through 8. It says in the middle of the heart loka is Brahman. It exists with knowledge as your eye, that's its eye. The world knowledge are established in Brahman. I'll go on. That one, the seeker, departs from this world with this knowledge. Getting all desires in the other worlds satisfied becomes immortal. Where there is always true light and great value, there that soul attains immortality. Om Namaha, says at the end of that. Om Namaha. It's like each one of these great teachings from the Rig Veda's Atma Bodha Upanisad, self-knowledge, began and ending with great mantras of 1 or 2 syllables. Om, I am, Om Namaha, right? It's like they just want to put that exclamation point on it. It's that I have just told you the truth. I stamp it now with the great word of Brahman. It's authoritative, as the Upanishads are. Upanishada Mahastram, we just chanted that twice at the beginning of this class. Mahastram means Maha, great. The great Upanishads. You won't find any of these teachings like this anywhere else in the world. Anywhere. You'll find them explicated, but not like this, condensed, like in the Upanishads. And that's why we're taking them up over the last few years since Swami Vivekananda's Sequicentennial, 150 years. He was there amongst us. So that's why we're taking up some of these Upanishads that you don't get to see very often, because Shankara didn't have time in his 32-year-old life to comment on all 108 of them. He only had time to do 10, maybe 11, they say. So, yeah, that's the whole 1 through 6, 1 through 8, actually, of the slokas. And we can take the time that's left over to look at the hollow stalk, and then we'll have made our way through about a third of the Upanishad. So next week, our third class, we'll see. Because we've already taken the I am teaching, we've made good headway in that, and we'll see if we can wrap it up next week. But for now, let's look a little deeper at this blue lotus. You can see, and you heard the quote from the Amrita Nadu. What does that mean? The sound of nectar, tastes to my subtle tongue so sweet. It's like nectar. Nada, it's sound that tastes good. not food, not sights. You talk about eye candy. I've got something much better for you. Ear candy. That's just wisdom. Amrita Nada is well named then. It's going to give you this highest wisdom that's so sweet to hear because it takes you quickly and swiftly in a mystic way right out of the worlds. It it dehypnotizes you. It demystifies the mind and it dehypnotizes the human being. It takes him right up and out of Maya and off the wheel of samsara, even to the very possibility of salvation and liberation. So you see there, the next quote down from the same Upanishad, the soul is never reborn, wherever the body may die, whose breath goes out at the crown of the head after piercing through this mandala. What's the mandala? The other six. It's uh, it's like a beautiful mandala of worlds inside the Harakasha. So many, filled with Brahmandas, worlds without end. Like in your dream, you could just go on dreaming forever if you didn't wake up. And your soul's wandering around these worlds in a subtle body, celestial body, if you want to put it that way. But what about this piercing of the highest chakra? If that happens, the soul's never born again. I mean, it's never born in the first place. Basically, it's never reborn, wherever the body may be born and pass away, right? Like ambulances going by and so forth. Maybe there's a person being born, maybe there's a person dying. But if they've pierced the Sahasrara chakra, then it doesn't matter where the body's born and dies. They'll never have to return to rebirth and ignorance if they pierce through the six mandalas and reach the crown chakra. Samadhi, nirvana, asampragyata, moksha, mukti, beatific vision. And there it is, down below. So this Upanishad follows the way of yoga of the Upanishads. There's a yoga that we know about that is that's taught in many different ways. It has 8 limbs. It's a very good yoga, but it's probably the case that when the rishis were writing these, they were very aware of the opening to 4 higher chakras, and that the 3 lower worlds needed to be transgressed. You know, they needed to be transcended. So in that case, then they pretty much started you off with the teachings in the Upanishad with these 4 chakras. There you see at first the Manipura, that's opening of Vayu, that's air. And then the next is Anahata, where it opens to the Atman. Those are different colored lotuses I've found and put there. And then the next chakra at the throat is the opening of to Samadhi, called the Vishuddha, or Agya chakra, or both. And then the next is the Sahasrara, which is the opening to moksha. So each of these lotuses is being compared to opening of blockages in the sushumna that are there that keep people from moving the way they want to higher realms when they pass away from the body because they were attached to objects on earth or pleasures or karmas. Remove those with your sadhana, all of a sudden these openings happen. Those nadis open, and those openings are being labeled right here. If it opens at the Manipura, at the vital area associated physically with the stomach, the gut, that's the opening of this vital air. You see, and you'll be able to again get that Vedic breath that's available. And then the heart chakra opens. That's where the Atman shows itself. That's why he's saying here, that heart lotus, Brahman exists there. That's in the form of Atman. And then the next lotus opening to Samadhi is the It's a combination of heart and throat. I'm sorry, throat and third eye, Vishuddha and Agya. That's where the being starts to get higher states of awareness and finally gets free. And that's what Ishvara is thinking when you get salvation. And you ask, is that all there is? Am I free now? Well, what kind of freedom are you talking about here? With a small f or a capital F? There is called moksha. You want to hear about that? So there are souls that actually come back to earth to hear about that, who gained their salvation before. And many of them are called monks. Why are they still working? And why are monks still in the body? They should have gotten out of it, right? But they're there by the millions. So monks must have been someone who reached salvation by renouncing the world, if they did it properly and not prematurely, but maturely. But they're still coming back to bodies. All of them aren't helping us. They're not free to help us. Those are specific souls like bodhisattvas and jivanmuksas. They're rare. So then the question persists, and why have they come back again? Because they're interested in moksha, not just salvation. So that's the opening to here and here, as the chart shows us, right? It's this lotus stalk. The whole blossom up there is waiting for us with many petals. So that's Sat, Chit, and Ananda at the highest level. That's the highest existence. That's the highest wisdom, and it's the highest bliss combined. Sat, Chit, Ananda. As far as practices for that, now that the lotus and its stalk of the four upper worlds or inner worlds have been shown to us, here's what the Upanishads say. The Yoga Kundalini Upanishad, which is rather a great authority on it, says, the practice of pranayam should be performed daily with the mind firmly fixed on truth. Oh, you mean it shouldn't be fixed on the lungs? Perform your pranayam with mind fixed on truth. Then the chitta gets absorbed in the sushumna, and the prana ceases to move. So chitta, your thoughts, they elevate, right? They go deep within, and they get fixed in the hollow stalk, right? Now they have a home there, and with that home, they can begin to course inwardly and open up different levels of these to different levels of these chakras, not just with a glimpse, but with an actual success of arrival. So that's why I say, and I didn't finish the thought, souls are coming in and out of those three lower chakras, right? Well, by the millions, billions in this world, probably. But when they reach the Anahat chakra, that transformation ends, but they can still come out of that chakra and go back into it. The yogis are going out of this chakra and back into it if they're realized. Souls that want to teach are coming in and out of this chakra and going back into it. That's in the great mind, right? And not in the body. As I point to these areas just to cause you to remember, basically that means these lotuses are in the Sukshma Sharira, not in the Stula Sharira, of course. Well, intelligent people would know that. So souls who are great, like avatars and so forth, they can come out of these higher chakras and go back into them and return again at that level. And so that's how transmigration and suffering and rebirth is given up here below, and is taken on at a higher level by going in and out of these chakras consciously at a higher level. So basically that's where these souls will say, I'm coming back again, like a bodhisattva or a jivan mukta, and my level of realization or the level of soul I want to help is at this particular level, and that's where I'll come back to. So I just said Sri Krishna comes back, and then he comes down from on high, as it were, or in deep, and then basically he says, come to the heart chakra, everyone. And then Holy Mother's born. She says, in this day and age, people can come to Sri Krishna now. The, the, the learned, the rich, the non-intelligent, the foolish can come to Sri Krishna now, and he'll beckon them to open up the heart So that's how great a great soul like that is to come and get you out of this transmigratory problem of the three lower chakras, three lower worlds, three grosser realms to the heart chakra, and then the three above come available to people. Three below, three above. It's a very good saying. So to do that in this Upanishad, fix your prana in the Sushumna, where your prana is going out, right? Everyone's prana is going out to objects, for instance. If the prana wasn't there in them, they wouldn't enjoy the object. So we've often said that the most addictive substance in the three worlds is not drugs or pleasures and land and wealth and all that. It's the prana, because it's the prana by which all these things are getting enjoyed. If your prana goes out of your senses, like in deep sleep tonight, you're not enjoying anything here. So when the prana comes back, that's when you say, I want that. I'm going to enjoy that. It's the prana that's doing that. This is only being activated by the prana to get that, to bring it to you. So in that way, you find out that this prana needs to be fixed, inward, and keep it there. It's all inward life then. We call it sometimes reclusive life or withdrawn life. And we'll end with this today and pick this up next Sunday. In the Amrita Nadu Upanishad, it says, the knowers of prana and of akasha, remember those are these worlds inside of you, and mantra, call these openings bila, cave, and shushiras, openings, or mandalas, wheels. That's right out of the Upanishad that teaches this hollow stalk. Isn't that nice? I mean, basically, that's where these words came from that we're looking at later. We had to put things like flowers, lotuses, heavens. We had to put words like that to it so we can kind of understand it. But the way it's seen originally is that these are actually caves, like the cave of the heart. You have to fix your prana in the Sushumna and concentrate in the cave of the heart, they say. That's where Brahman is, he's saying. Then what else are they called? Openings. When you're in the cave of the heart and you're concentrating there, an opening may happen in your mind, right? From the lower mind to the higher mind to the great mind, an opening, like the Sharika Upanishad, the diamond needle Upanishad that we studied, can penetrate. Her needle-like body can penetrate through those caves into the opening, it says. Kind of mystic language, but it's very beautiful to know about it. And then they can get beyond the whole wheel, right? The whole mandala, when it penetrates through these, and it can get to the crown chakra. I've run out of time, but I'd like to go on talking till maybe around midnight about this, because it's so engaging and so beautiful in these ancient scriptures. But here we can end then with a chant and go on to finish our Mother's Day, hopefully in some recognition and celebration of the Divine Mother. Devim prasanam pranatarti handrim. Devim prasanam pranatarti handrim. Yogendra pujam Yugadharma patrim. Tam sharadam bhakti vijnana datrim. Daya swarupam pranamami nicham. O Sharada, propitious goddess, killer of misery and souls resigned, by saints and sages worshipped, O Mother kind. Give us love and wisdom, thou, O grace incarnate. To thee we bow. Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Pado Padme Toye Shritva Pranamami Mahor Mahor Pranamami Mahor Mahor. Om Shanti 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 Hari